All right, everybody, welcome back. It's Hxro Labs Live with your host RT on a Monday, November 16th. We've got Soheil and Emma and Dave. Good to see you guys right back with us in the lab. And as usual, there's a ton going on today. Bitcoin breaking to new all-year highs, I should say. I was about to say all-time highs. Yearly highs on Bitcoin. Dominance is at a pivotal level. I cannot stress to you enough how closely I am watching the dominance chart. I've got it on one of my screens exclusively today. We will take a look at that. Bitcoin is actually just pulling back at a little trend line resistance right now on the more like intraday levels. Take a quick look at that. And the fear and greed index spiked yet again to 90 this morning. In fact, let me refresh that. 86 when I checked yesterday, and today is at 90. So the extreme greed has seeped into the market and continues to grow. That usually leads to something somewhat cataclysmic to those people who like to get super greedy at times like this. So I will do my usual spiel, which is to preach caution at the highs. How you approach the market is part of your trading plan, and you need to continue to trade that. Not here to give financial advice, as always. But there's some people that are like, oh, I was in for a little. Now's a good time to go in for a lot. Generally not. Generally, when the time comes that you really should be diving into the market, it'll probably be sometime during a fear cycle, which we saw in March, and which we even saw over the last, I'd say, what was that? Early September. So there are times to make big plays in the market and make bold maneuvers. I did long Bitcoin this morning from the highs. But I'm managing risk. It's a small-ish long, and I just looked at it. I was like, oh, this thing's going to new highs. And so it's there's no perfect way to skin the cat. I will just generally say it's not a time to be doing anything stupid like taking out loans and borrowing against your house and buying extra shit that you can't afford. That's all I'll say today on that. Now, we have a special guest in the studio today who's going to be joining us shortly. Franklin Fitch at Crypto Fitch on Twitter, the head of marketing at Blockparty. And he's here to talk about NFTs today, which is really exciting because, as you know, we have a new NFT blogger on our site, hxrolabs.io, and that is this man, Franklin Fitch. So he's here to tell us about that, talk to us about what they are. And you may also remember Nick and I are quite bullish on NFTs, both of us holding positions in a couple of tokens and speculating on a few others here in the future as perhaps Bitcoin dominance cools off. Because I want to be long on the things that are dominating. It's nice that my Tether my XRP that I bought on the weekend is going up. I'm not convinced it's outperforming Bitcoin, but I did buy some, as you may know if you follow me on Twitter at randomtask555. So I am long on XRP, but let's get over to the charts because I want to get in here. But before we do, we got to cover a few things because the market is hot. It's moving fast. I'm going to switch over to screen share here. Where is it? There we go. Let's just start on XRP because as much as we like to hate on XRP, and I especially do, like I'm certainly not one to be like, oh, the future of finance, blah, blah, blah. I don't care for it. 50%, held by the team, blah, blah, blah. Say what you will, but this thing will move when it has, when time comes, this thing knows how to move. And look at what it's done over the last, since September 4th, basically, since the big dump. It hasn't really enjoyed any gains. Even the gain it got, through the bull this summer wasn't that exciting. And, it's on the USD pairs, it's got some room to move. This is just like a short one from Binance. So when I see this kind of a breakout, let me get that resized. When I see this kind of a breakout after this, 2-month consolidation, this one right here, I added to my position. I was speculating it would break out. So I was actually buying initially around like the 26-cent range. But after this breakout on the weekend, I couldn't help myself. I said, look, I got to buy that. That's going to move almost certainly, right? You just want to trade on probabilities. So I am long on XRP probably for the second time ever. I think when I first started trading crypto in May 2017, I bought some as well. So like I said, not a big fan, but I'm not here to marry it. I'm here to trade it, right? Date it, don't marry it. So let's see my targets, because we all want to know when moon and where moon. I think there's some really big targets you could pick depending on your time frames. But for me, I'll be using this fib extension. which will take us, I mean, as you can see here, the last FIB extension absolutely smacked. So if you measured from the March lows up to the May 1st high and you extend that, you get a number 31.9. And, you know, double top here, perfect for a take profit. So repeating that logic takes us up into this 41 cent. Now, I wonder if I could draw that up slightly differently now that I think about it. From here to here, capture the extension from that. Where does that fall? Yeah, pretty close. So we've got 2 extension targets and then a little chaos PRZ drawn from this right shoulder, if you want to call it that, just the right sort of highest low, and then the middle. That extends up around to 35 and 39 and a half as well. So this whole cluster plus this trend line resistance, I mean, the meat of my take profit will be here. I may hold on to a smaller free position because, as you will see here, let's just go look at this one. Here's a nice old chart. Yeah, this is not like the oldest one, but it's pretty old. I mean, this is the chart. So does it have lots of upside potential? Yup. And do I want to sell my entire bag at like 12 cents into this potential move? Nope. But it's just a trade, and that's the way I'm trading it. And if I close out and hold the rest, I mean, once you have a free position, it's pretty sweet. You can just kind of ride it. So I will definitely have some. Take some profit and then hold some for free. We'll see where it goes. So we've got Zanzibar in the house, and Jesse and Linus. Good to see you guys. Jonesy's back, and Jay Quellen in the house. Excellent, excellent. Yep, Fitch is waiting in the wings. We'll have him in here shortly. So let's take a quick look at Bitcoin, which on the weekly stalled at this big resistance last week and has opened the week very bullish, moving up through since last night's close. Almost, let's see, about $700 today. So surprise, surprise, more bullishness from Bitcoin. As we talked about earlier, the Fear Greed Index now peaking at around 90, or I should say not peaking necessarily, but hitting 90. ETH BTC making a potential higher low. This is the one I've been watching for. Remember during this big bullish break, my 2 cents was that we should be waiting, not chasing that initial impulse, that most of the time markets will come back and look to test that low. And sure enough, we are coming into that level. Now, there is no guarantee that this level holds. In fact, that's what I want to talk about today. Bitcoin dominance testing this trend line for a 3rd time in short order, meaning there's a lot of pressure on Bitcoin dominance looking uppy here. So a different view gives us this descending, broadening wedge. 4th tap here, as I talked about last week. I was on the line with BTC Jack Sparrow, and he loves this pattern. He looked at this chart with me and he said, yeah, that looks really bullish. Looks like it's going to break out. So if Bitcoin dominance does decide to break out, that probably looks like a move up near the highs, which there's a trend channel that I was looking at last weekend, which, you know, doesn't mean it has to stop here, but certainly going to see some resistance. Where was my Bitcoin chart? Yeah, right here. So like, you know, an extension of this last move up would take us into that area, up into around like 18.5. Now that could be a blow off top. It could be, you know, the biggest bull trap ever and everything just FOMOs in, and then that ends up making our yearly high as we head into like a boring end of year. Or we could just be in this new paradigm and it just kind of keeps chugging away and just keeps going. So the real question for me is dominance, watching this here, because if this breaks out, if we lose this trend line to the upside, that means ETH BTC has likely lost this level. And I actually have to pull up another ETH BTC chart to even see where that's going to go. Show you guys real quick, because there is that other scenario we talked about last week, right? I think this is a significant volume here, but it's not insanely significant. It doesn't, you know, this certainly isn't a bottom on the weekly just yet. This looks really good. I mean, overall on the weekly, this looks great, but there's nothing that says we can't come and slide into here while Bitcoin goes crazy over the next little while. So just keep an eye on that. Not everyone's convinced that ETH 2.0 rollout is going to be as smooth and as sexy as everyone wants it to be. So with that in mind, preaching caution as we approach this higher low, I will be taking a trade here and I will be risking to this low, maybe even giving it a little bit of breathing room. So in case it sweeps, right? But generally speaking, there's a trade here, but it's not like an all in and don't look back. I think there's risk there as well. So always managing risk, keeping an eye on things. D Nice. Yeah, we got Chad up in here and Aaron, all the squad. Principal Oshak Hennessy is in the house. AAVE stood up to its name, scared the shit out of me. Yeah, Linus, you know what? Funny story. I shorted the top gainer on Bitcoin futures this morning. Ask me anything. That's how I'm feeling this morning. I'm really happy with my XRP long and my little Bitcoin long, so they're kind of carrying. But I actually did short AAVE this morning. Don't need to get right into it, but I'll explain why. It was just kind of like I noticed it yesterday. And I was like, oh, look at that. I'm going to short that. Um, you know, say what you will about shorting things that look bullish, but when I see this, I'm like, wow, okay, where are we? And it was actually last night. We're up high kind of in the chart pattern, but it was this fail here. And again, this is just a setup, right? So the thing about being a trader is like I can say, I think it's going to go up. I can think it's going to go down. It doesn't really matter. I just have setups. So when I see this market structure fail and some momentum indicators showing bearish divergence, and then I draw this up, just show you guys real quick. You're wondering, why would you short that? It's so bullish. Then it just comes up into the short RLZ. So I have some asks working. I risk to those highs. I take it down to about 4-1, which, as you can see, was this breakout level and happened to be confluent with this reload zone here, right? So there was reasons. I think it was actually right here. Yeah. So, 3-1 up into the short RLZ, and it did break down this morning. So I was like, haha, cool, sniped it, and then just exploded through. And that's just the way it goes. So I eat shit, take the loss, and move on with my life. Not too attached to that position, don't really care. And you know what? It could even fail up here after a nice wash of these highs. But I don't have that setup, right? So trading the setups comes at a cost. 40% of the time, they usually bust. XRP, on the other hand, looking a little better. So, win some, lose some, moving on. Yeah, I mean, it did look like a good setup. I agree, Linus, and they often do, right? They all do. That's why we take them. And sometimes they work, and you look like a genius. Sometimes you just run in front of a freight train, and that's why we use stop losses too. I mean, you know how tempting it was for me to add to my short here and add to it here, and but I just don't. And sure enough, it got blown up, and I'm out, and it could explode here. So I don't want to be in it. Let's see what Uniswap's doing real quick. There's a thing we should talk about today real quick before we switch over, because I really just want to talk about NFTs today. But there is a big thing brewing over on Uniswap, and I may just have to pull up Cointelegraph because I was not on the community call for the Uni token, which is dumping today, by the way, or at least it was earlier. So basically, there was an incentive early on with the Uni token, and there was 4 massive pools where people are staking huge amounts, something like $1 billion worth of ETH. And on the call, there was talks like, are we going to extend this? Are we going to do more of that? Blah, blah, blah. They didn't come to any conclusion. Apparently, it was a hot mess. Nick told me he was following along. He said it was a bit of a hot mess. They didn't really decide anything. So that ends tomorrow. In other words, those pools, the incentive really for those pools goes away. So there's a lot of speculation. What will happen to that 1 billion ETH? What kind of move will that have on Uni? And we should take a look at Uni, because I imagine that is a lot to do with why it's dumping today. Really clean. Actually, I should look at it here. I think I actually have some ink on it. Take a quick look. No. So many charts, so many tickers. And one of them has what I'm looking for. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, little head and shoulders forming on the 4-hour. So I'm watching this close really closely. This is going to be a tight one. If it closes below, we've got confirmed bearish market structure, clear head and shoulders, as you guys can see. And that might take us back down. And that's obviously coming at resistance. Apparently, on-chain analytics showed I think it was $3 or $4 million worth of Uni being borrowed. Or maybe it was 3 or 4 million Uni. I can't remember. But anyways, it was borrowed basically right here. And why the hell would you borrow an asset if not to sell it and short it? So you don't really borrow Uni to long Uni. So it makes sense that signal came in and then we rolled over, and now, so there might be a little unwinding here as we head into that event. I wish I could share more conclusive sort of analysis on what I think that all means. All I can say for certain is that it is creating some uncertainty. That's probably why we're seeing a cool down in ETH, because that's 1 billion Ethereum that may need a new home. Are they going to fall? They're going to move to find other yields. chasing yields. Are the people who bought to stake in those pools now up 7 or 8% on their ETH just going to sell their ETH and go back to stablecoin and find their next yield that way? Like, there's just a lot of uncertainty. So don't expect huge things from Ethereum until that plays out, and that's the date for that is tomorrow. So keeping an eye on that. And otherwise, as you can see here, this is an entry I actually like for Ethereum. So there's tons of tasty coins, lots going on in the market. I mean, CFI, as you guys know, Nick and I, producer, pre-sale holders of this coin, and it's doing really well today. So really nice to see that kind of catching a bid in the DeFi space. Really good volume too. That's the key, right? This is not just on fumes. I mean, there's some really sweet volume behind that. So pretty happy with that. And what else do we got, guys? Do you guys want to look at a few other things? Ocean just kind of moving sideways. We are going to move all in on the NFT conversation in a moment. So if you have any chart thoughts, any diehard setups you really want to take a quick look at, now or never. We still have the CME trading at a premium, up at 16,760 right now. Bitcoin lagging. Oh, no. Spot market's caught up a little bit here. Interesting. So CME is actually falling behind. It was leading this morning. It's very close. It's basically on par, though. I did spot this last week, which I thought was interesting. And I tweeted out, not really to be like, hey, this is a short. You must short this because it's at a trend channel high. It's really more just like a warning signal. It's like, maybe not the greatest time to like make large new long positions, right? Taking big bets in a certain direction often are easier to do when you're at the highs. You know, it's like it's harder to buy when it's in this kind of death zone, and then it's really easy to long and buy when it's up here, but naturally that punishes you. So we've got bearish divergence, got the RSI crossing over this midline. We're at trend channel highs, right? We're at this kind of weekly resistance. Like, there's just a lot of reasons to ride your positions if you got them. Trend is your friend, but maybe not running to make any big risky bets here as we head into these levels. You know, the end of the year also just tends to be kind of boring. A lot of unwinding, things like, you know, tax selling and all that stuff. So I wouldn't be too shocked to see the end of November marking a sort of high in the market time-wise, but that's neither here nor there. We'll just have to wait and see. You know, that's why I like to stick to setups mostly, because, you know, you can predict and talk about what you think things are going to happen, and it's fancy as hell, man. When you call it, it's great. But at the end of the day, as a trader, you know, predictions don't mean a whole lot to me. What I need is something I can trade, something I can measure, criteria for a setup. And so that's what I trade. And that's why, even though I think ETH could go below this, I want to long it here. And if Bitcoin does cool off, I think I actually have a chart of it here. That's Bitstamp. Let's see. I think there's like a rising wedge. No, I mean, there's another way to draw this up where it doesn't look so hot. So choose your poison, sir. Although this break on volume is pretty good as far as this like losing volume during this little wedge. So I wouldn't be shocked to see this breakout. But I posted that more as like a thought experiment for people that are, you know, seeing this chart, which looks super bullish. You know, bullish market structure, breakout, retest, go. And this is probably the one I would lean towards because it's just cleaner and horizontals work better. But then I saw someone else post this, and it's like, oh man, we're in a rising wedge with slightly slower volume. You know, momentum's falling off. Why am I so bullish? So just keep an eye on this kind of stuff. Sometimes I like to draw up the chart two ways and see which one's more convincing. For now, I am skimming some to tether. I've done some skimming in the last week to position myself with some dry powder. But then to offset that, I longed on leverage today, a couple Bitcoin like on lower leverage, so that I'm still theoretically long, but it's a lot easier to move in and out, if that makes sense. Dixie's not giving us too much, except for that it still just kind of looks like shit, slowly trending down, but a little bit more consolidating here after breaking out of this trend channel. Hasn't really made any significant moves. I imagine there will be some printing in the near future of USD, which should be bullish for crypto. So, you know, keeping an eye on that. I think the political stuff is still going on in the States. Won't speak to it too much. Haven't been watching too closely, except for that I know Trump has yet to concede, which means uncertainty. And I think we'll just I'll leave it at that for today. Now, without further delay, I would like to get Franklin in here. He's waiting patiently in the wings. That's it for like a quick overview of the market, guys. TLDR, Bitcoin new highs, ETH BTC coming into a higher low territory that looks extremely sexy. Dominance kind of on its last legs as far as this chart goes. And keep an eye out above, because if Bitcoin takes off here, it could get really ugly for altcoins versus Bitcoin. Key thing, they might maintain USD value, so that's cool. But maximizing your exposure to the market, you probably want to be on the side of the dominance chart, which for now is very Bitcoin friendly until further notice. So I will flip back to the studio. A good friend of mine here. We've met in person, we've hung out, we've partied, and we've known each other for a few years, and very happy to have him in here today. Welcome, Franklin. How are you? Good to see you, brother.
Likewise.
And you're here to teach me a lot today as well, because you've actually joined us in to an extent on our blog. You have joined us at HxroLabs.io. We have a heading, or I should say a subheading, says NFT Market Pulse. Who is writing those?
That would be me.
Yeah.
And I love that in the studio here we have some art that I actually own floating around, which is really quite cool. You've got a piece there by Hipworth, who is dropping an exclusive set on Blockparty tomorrow. You've got a Pie Slices over there. He was our last drop, which just sold out. And then on the floorboard, I believe that's a Mont Blanc, which is a very, very interesting piece in sort of its conception. So very cool. I love to see art that I personally own, hanging out in the studio.
Yeah. Now, when you say you own that, and this is, Melker and I actually talked about this as well, and I've talked about this, and there's always this people that'll say, well, why would I buy the NFT? Yeah, I could just copy paste and have that. And real quick, to just dispel that, because I find that it's a fair question. I don't think it's like you probably heard it a lot. But it kind of goes with like the Mona Lisa, right? I mean, you can get a poster. People want to own it. It's beautiful art. Go get it. But you don't own the original. And owning the original is where the value is. You can buy posters. You can copy paste anything you want. You can draw a picture of a Pokemon card, but you won't sell it for 13 grand or whatever Pikachu is going for these days. So I think NFTs.
You nailed it. It's like it's a few different factors. Like at a fundamental level, there's a lot of things that you could just steal in the world, ideas, right? Intellectual property. You look at China steals, a great amount of that from the United States. And, is it wrong? Yeah. But did they do it? Yes. And are they able to create products and innovations based on that? Yes, they are. So, you have just the intellectual property component, which is theft of intellectual property doable in the internet age? Absolutely. Is it right morally? No. So, just because you can steal it doesn't mean you should. And you have the more of the functional kind of what it is that an NFT is and actually does for the world answer to the question. So a digital file can be copied, right? Yeah. We all know that. Be it a .mov, an MP4, GIF or a JPEG. But as you pointed out, that does not make it the real authentic work by the creator. In the same way that someone could go kind of reproduce the Mona Lisa as best they could and attempt to sell it. They're not going to fetch that, God knows how much it's worth now, $1 billion maybe valuation for it, because it's not the real thing. And so there's this kind of esoteric idea of the real, which comes to bear. And what it has to do within the art world is this term called provenance, right? So the story of authenticity and ownership of the art. That's what the word provenance means. Because NFTs are blockchain-based applications, for lack of a better term, applications is not really the right word, but it's good enough. But you can basically track the entire history of ownership and authenticity of an item and make sure that it's real and it came from the creator directly. So the words I would encourage listeners to really brush up on if you want to understand why people buy NFTs, provenance is one of them, and then patronage, which is really what connects the second point I just made in the first point, which is, yeah, you could go steal something, but it's not going to be real in terms of the provenance and the record of ownership. But basically, you can think of NFTs as like a authenticity certificate.
Yeah, it's underlying. And yeah, let's start at that definition: NFT, non-fungible token. Even with, and you know, as I start to learn more about it, and then you know, the standard, so you look back and say, well, now everyone knows, but there's still people asking, like, what the hell are NFTs? Even on Twitter, crypto enthusiasts, traders, they haven't quite grasped it. So let's start at that base definition. What is an NFT?
Yeah, so like you said, non-fungible token is the acronym, right? And what does that mean? Well, fungible is the operative word. I think we know what tokens are, right? You should anyway. And if you don't,
that's another discussion.
Dial
Yeah,
it a few steps back.
We
right?
Can't go too far back. Yeah.
Yeah. So fungible means interchangeable, like in a like kind exchange. So basically, a dollar is fungible because every dollar is the same as every other dollar, and an ounce of gold is fungible because every ounce of gold is the same as every other ounce of gold, right? So it basically means all of the units are the same and could be swapped for another unit, and that would be a totally valid equal exchange, right?
Yeah,
and non-fungible, a dollar for a dollar. Right? We all understand the concept implicitly of that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a medium of exchange, right? And a non-fungible token is not a medium of exchange. It is basically every token is unique and ascribes basically a digital identifier to either a physical or a digital good. So it doesn't have to just be digital goods. You know, you look at even like what a VeChain is doing with RFID tags and putting the information from RFID tags on the blockchain. That would really be like an NFT. You know, that's functionally an NFT. But what they typically mean when they say NFT, again, it's a unique digital identifier on the blockchain, typically Ethereum. But as we're seeing more and more competitor chains like Wax and Flow coming into the ecosystem, that is attached to an item for the purpose of saying this is the real item, right? This is the one that the artist verified. For example, if I take a screenshot or if I try and take a sample of some work that I didn't purchase, it's probably not going to be the same file type, resolution necessarily, right? Quality level, not signed by the artist. So this is the point. You attach these basically tokens as certificates of authenticity, records of ownership for the most popular use case being digital items, and art being probably the most popular among those, or gaming items. I'm not exactly sure about the market size between the two.
Oh, well, the gaming items section is crazy. I mean, I think I did I did a brief dive on NFTs earlier in August, just before, actually, thankfully just before they heated up, during that little mini bubble they enjoyed at the end of the DeFi thing this summer. And you know, there was an item on CS:GO, Counter-Strike Go. I think it was a knife, you know, like a really cool looking knife. But it's just a skin for an item, and it was selling, I think it sold for like $100,000 US.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of those. I mean,
so there is a market for that. And you know, Fortnite is the one that comes to mind for me. You know, most kids these days have heard of it. They've, you know, see the dances everywhere, even if you don't play video games. And the items in that game, you pay with V-Bucks. And you know, most kids, again, if you have people in your life that have kids, they're like, I want V-Bucks for my birthday. And they just go and they spend them, and they're making millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a month selling these digital, I guess you could say it's just code, their outfits, costumes, dances. But my bash on that is that you don't own those items. And so what NFTs in that sense could potentially do is give users of games or whatever marketplace they're participating in, you can actually own it. So, you know, when, like, if Fortnite just say turned off or pivoted, all that value that those people bought into is gone. So NFTs unlocks this potential in that sense too. That's, I mean, one of the use cases I'm interested in a gaming sense.
Well, I mean, and that's a great point to bring up there, is that people don't understand that in the CS:GO or the Fortnite model, you don't really own those things. Like you said, at any given time, they could be reclaimed from you. It's based on their centralized system. So if they wanted to at some point say, nope, that's ours, you know, again, it's unlikely, but it is possible. You know, and then you also have the kind of the concern about, you know, those items being stolen, right, in a centralized system. If somebody gets access to your Xbox Live account, I'm not saying that this doesn't.
It happened to me, actually. That was really weird. You say that the Epic games, it was like your Epic's game password changed. I was like, wait, what? Like, hacking into my
Who did that? Yeah.
who's hacking into my Fortnite account, because like it's not even crypto related at all. So it was a weird thing, but
Right.
I think it was just spam bots or something. But they sold my floss. I had the floss dance from season 2. I don't even know if you can get it anymore.
Oh,
And
I know what you
you
mean.
get like 3 opportunities to like sell it back or trade it back, and basically say, I didn't want it, I want something else. And so they went and they used all 3 of my cells and just dumped my shit. Spent like the little bit of V-Bucks they had, and like that's all they did to my account. I was like, that was annoying. And but you know, I mean, you create a marketplace like with CS:GO. There must be some kind of underlying ownership concept, otherwise you couldn't buy and sell some of these more rare items. So I mean, I'd be curious to learn more about that. But you know, in a nutshell, what you're saying with NFTs is there is a token, and it's an ERC 721 token. Is that correct?
That is one of the types, yes,
Well, okay,
right? So
that's the one I see.
1155 is another protocol.
Okay.
There's also minting on Wax blockchain, who did Garbage Pail Kids and the William Shatner shit. I don't specifically recall exactly what that was. I think they were cards.
Okay.
And then also Flow, who is it's done by Dapper Labs, which Dapper Labs is a power player, right? And if you're wanting to do a little bit more research, listening in, I would highly recommend checking them out. They do NBA Top Shot. They also were the ones who did CryptoKitties. So people don't realize, like, the NBA is licensing NFTs right now. This is not like a fledgling idea where nobody's participating in it. It's like, will it do great things? Like, we're past that. I don't know how many people realize that we're past that.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of the price charts, and I will get into that later, because I think a lot of people who watch, you know, we got traders and speculators. We're all here to learn about the tech. Yeah, we're in it for the tech, but we're all here to find value, to maybe even get into something a little bit ahead of the masses. And part of what we want to pull out of this conversation today is, where's that alpha? Where's that value? What can we, you know, actionable things we can do today from what we learned from you, to then maybe go out there and speculate on some of this stuff. But you yourself are actually a holder of a number of NFTs. You're really into the art side of it. Do you want to tell us a bit about maybe some of your first NFT purchases and how that's been going for you as a speculator?
Yeah, sure. I've only sold a few. I want to emphasize that. And I'm not really buying, like, and I have clarified this on other kind of streams or podcasts, is that I'm not necessarily, in my behaviors, the one to emulate if you want to make money. I said it to Vlad, and Vlad kind of ironically said to me, this is the way the best art collectors do it, because he used to be in the art world running an art investment fund. Vlad's our CEO at Blockparty. But, you know, I said, look, I buy the things that I love and I'll sell them if I want. And he was like, that unironically makes the best collector. But I haven't had enough time to prove that thesis out in NFTs. So let me phrase it this way. I buy art that I like. I often will buy actually like 2D non-motion oriented pieces, whereas right now, a lot of motion oriented pieces are the ones that sell better. So it's like, I like abstract flat pieces, and these digital artists are making really incredible versions of that. That's what I collect in real life. If you know, we're panning around my apartment, you see some Kandinsky pieces, who's an early abstract artist. So I buy the stuff that I like. Now, here's where the investment part of it comes in. There's a few qualities that I want to bring to light. And actually, my next Hxro Labs blog will break these down in greater detail. But you want to be collecting artists early in their journey, right? Early works from artists who are kind of on a rising trajectory are what you want to be finding. And it doesn't necessarily have to be their first ones, but some of my pieces are first ever works by different artists, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, those are great things to collect. Those tend to do really well in value. And then just look at the size of, you know, an artist in terms of their social following, or like the amount of work they've sold, right? These are other indicators of, you know, increase in value over time. It's like, if this artist has 20,000 Instagram followers and this is their first ever NFT, you could bet that that's going to do pretty well in the secondary market, right? And then the drops that have like a lot of hype around them. So be they on Blockparty, be they on Nifty, be they on SuperRare, what have you, or Maker's Place, any of these kind of markets. There's some drops that are like, you know, mega hyped, because it's either a collaboration between artists, which, mind you, is another great thing to be collecting, or they've just been marketed heavily. You know, these things tend to do really well. And a note about the time frames here, right? This is because these are non-fungible assets, they operate a little bit differently than fungible assets. There's no liquidity, right?
Yeah, you
And
can't
so
buy like 10 of them, or there's
yeah,
no depth. It's like a trade for a trade. So how do
exactly.
you value them?
Well, yeah. So I mean, just a final note on the how you sell them part. Those are some of the desirable qualities. But if you want to sell, you either, I think, are holding for short term, which is like intraday sometimes, because at that time there's going to be a lot of eyes on the market if you're in a drop, right? And
Yeah.
you happen to be the one who got in, and you want to sell for a quick 2x, you better list that shit right away, right? I mean, sell it, like, list it immediately for the price that you want to sell it for. And then kind of alternatively, if they don't hit, the nice thing is they're kind of like limit orders that you just leave in the books. I have a lot of pieces like that where I've said, if it doesn't hit this price, then I don't care. I get to enjoy it in the meantime, right? I appreciate the piece. I bought the piece because I liked it. Maybe I bought it also as kind of a hybrid investment, which my portfolio is somewhere between those spectrums at any given time. But I'm going to list it for a price that I'm comfortable selling it for. And if it hits, great. If it doesn't, I'll hold it a little longer. So it's kind of that mindset of really, really quick flips. Like, I'm going to list this for 1.5 to 3x, depending on the attention in the market at the time, straight away after the drop, which I've had a number of those hit.
Yeah, where
That's
you just
not
buy it
far-fetched.
because you're in the gate. The artist is selling it for $250. For example, you go buy it, and then right away, when there's maybe some warmth around that particular piece, you just go and put it right onto the market for $750. There's a guy shows up, he's like, "Oh, I was late, but I really like it. I'm going to buy it anyways."
That's exactly it. And I've done that 3 or 4 times where I got in on the drop sold out really quickly in a seconds or minutes, and then someone missed it, but they're willing to pay a premium.
Yeah,
Right?
because
So that's
it's a speculation game, right? They're just, because here's the other thing too. Like, and I'm going to keep using Pokemon as an example. We recently published a stream with Messiah talking to some of the bigger traders in that Pokemon stuff, and they kind of got into it. I mean, you and I are around the same age, right? We were alive in the 90s, and it was mid to late 90s when some of these sets were coming out, and they were just kids at school playing with their cards. But if you held on to them, if they are in crispy mint condition, suddenly there's this sort of nostalgia around that, because I still can't for the life of me figure out what the real it's what do I need this card for? Well, I'm collecting them. I'm super into Pokemon. I liked Pokemon Go. Like, don't get me wrong, it was fun. But 13 grand for that card, like, I don't know. I would, unless I think I can sell it for 20, I'm not buying that. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is that over time, it's really hard to say what down the road in the future will have a major increase in value like that. And I think one of the exciting things for me around this NFT stuff, especially with the digital art, is, as you say, this is an entirely new landscape of an age-old market, right? Art is not new. Right.
Art
So
is timeless.
Picasso, some people always, like, that's this funny thing. It was like, I was today years old when I found out Picasso died 60 years ago. I mean, the guy, you hear about his paintings being worth so much. He's not from the 1500s. This guy's, he died, what, like 50, 60 years ago. So don't quote me on that. But like, the idea being that there are now new artists or emerging artists in this digital art landscape that are like, this is just starting. So if you have any knowledge of sort of that digital art and this collectible stuff in general, this is a really spicy potential opportunity. I mean, I just off face value, I can see that. But then you look at things like some of the Masari charts that are showing the volume, the growth, the sales. And like you say, it's quietly already a thing. And it's just kind of seems like a matter of time until the speculators arrive. I'm going to pull up some
I
charts.
think some of the and while you're pulling those up, I'll just add a commentary there. Like, some of the speculators are already there, but there are people who arrived early to NFTs. I think just now in the last few weeks, maybe a month or two, some of the crypto speculators are arriving. But I would emphasize this. I think while there are very attractive investment theses involved in this space, you need to understand what it is that you're investing in, right? People think that they're investing in a cryptocurrency. They're not. There is no liquidity by definition here. So you need to be prepared to hold these things for a longer time frame. You're not going to be able to exit a position that hasn't done what you thought it would in a short period of time. because that's not the way it works. And within the market, there's a lot of different kinds of NFTs, and they all have different behaviors and things associated with them. So if you're buying like NBA Top Shot collectible cards or Axie Infinity, you know, little game monsters, those are going to behave radically differently than a piece of George Jones art, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to accrue value differently, and they're going to have different levels of liquidity. So for example, NBA Top Shots have a lot of liquidity compared to other things because it's the NBA. You know, they have a lot of people on the platform using Dapper systems to trade these cards. So I'll list stuff for sale and it'll sell 5-10 minutes later, you know, for a small flip when I want to flip cards, or I just leave them in there. Every day I get a little pop-up notification in the corner of my laptop, like a new card sold. So that's different than the pieces I buy on Blockparty or Nifty or SuperRare, where I'm not expecting to sell those for 3 to 6 months. In fact, some of them I may not even sell for years.
I was gonna say, or more,
Yeah, I mean, like there's probably, my collection's probably about 50 pieces now of actual proper art. And then I don't even know how many cards, a lot of cards and things like that. But there's probably like 5 out of my art collection I would hold. I would say for sure I'm not going to sell for years because I think they'll be worth tens of thousands of dollars, and I might have spent like 1 to 2 ETH on them, you know, and I really genuinely look at that, and I believe that because of, you know, some of the things that I'll describe in the Hxro blog, but let's look at the data that you got.
Yeah, well, this is a chart actually. Let me switch to my screen share. I mean, if you have this Masari chart, you sent this to me earlier in July, SuperRare's volume. I couldn't find the updated one. Nick and I actually looked this morning for the updated sort of version.
I don't think they did an update on that, but my last Hxro Labs blog had some other data from them. If you want to pull that up, that's got some.
Yeah, I've got that here as well. But let me show my screen here. It's a little flippery here. Okay, there we go.
Oh my God, look at that.
So yeah, this now this is up to sort of July and August. So keep that in mind. I would love to see the update of this. I couldn't find it this morning. We will keep an eye on it and tweet it out if possible. So SuperRare surpasses 1.6 million in
Actually, I may have the update, RT. I think it's, if I remember correctly from seeing a tweet of theirs, it's over 3 million now.
Okay.
Or it's gone up a lot.
So that would make sense given the trajectory that this was showing in July, and still relatively small. I mean, 1.8 million is a peanut in the world of sort of, you know, capital and all that stuff. So
quick note there though, right? For people that don't understand this, and I do think it's really relevant to pause on. You know, the other exchanges, right, are taking basis points, you know, fractions of a percent as their fees. These markets are art galleries. They take 10 to 20, sometimes even more than 20%. So the amount of profit they're making on this volume is a lot more. It's like orders of magnitude more than a crypto exchange. So that's something a lot of people don't understand.
I did not know that. Yeah, that's good to know actually. So
it's like a gallery. It's like a digital art gallery.
So in that sense, that would make this a lot more attractive as far as like attracting new investors to even start up their own exchanges.
Yeah,
which
I think I would caution them to know something about art, right? The ones that have done really well thus far, like, know something about art. Like Vlad, our CEO, was bought and sold Basquiat's and Monets and things, right? So, you know, he's no slouch, right? He's a genuine expert in the subject, and even still, it's challenging because there's some great competitors out there, you know.
Well, I say that more for the point of you know, trying to spot this as a growth, right? A lot of people, I think, probably watching today, they're learning more about it. They're saying, well, how convinced am I really that this, you know, why would I buy $250 token that represents a piece of digital art? You know, you really want to be convinced that that this space is going somewhere, that this whole thing is going to grow. And so when I look at this volume chart, and then you tell me that the fees that the exchanges are collecting on these kinds of buys and sells are as high as you say, as high as 20, even more %.
Sometimes more. Yeah.
When I hear that, I just think, well, that's attractive as fuck. So more of that's going to keep happening, and more people are going to look to try to facilitate that. So in that sense, I just say it is in the sense that it's going to be attractive, and people are, you know, if you can make money off just facilitating the exchange of these things, that's really going to promote growth in the space for NFTs. which if you look here, we actually have a CoinGecko list for NFTs. Now, I don't know if NFT is on here. I actually made a message a month ago to reach out to them, be like, yeah, we got to get NFT protocol on here. But this,
I think this is this like coins that are, oh, there's NFT protocol there.
Oh, it is on now. Good. Okay.
Yeah, it must have been added.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't when I first looked. I mean, you guys are relatively new with your airdrop from Blockparty switching over, so it wasn't surprising. But yeah, I was looking at it. I was like, how is NFT protocol not on the NFT list? So for anyone who's interested in this stuff, I can't speak to all of these coins. Obviously, I haven't done my due diligence on them, but this is a short list of the top NFT tokens, coins by market cap on CoinGecko. We just put it into our trading view, or excuse me, YouTube chat, and I'll actually put it in the trading view chat now as well for anyone who's interested. And yeah, I mean, that's, for me, there's a happy medium here, because like based on what you're saying, I want to get some art. Like I think it'd be kind of cool, especially this early on, even if I got to pay something that seems a little outrageous, like $500 or $1,000 for a token that represents art. If it's beautiful and it speaks to me and I like it, you can get these digital picture frames, right? So you could have it on your wall, and you can even have it cycling multiple NFTs. Presumably, I don't know if that's a thing yet. If it isn't, it should be.
No, it is.
I have a digital picture frame, but
oh, you do?
Yeah, but I haven't hooked it up with like NFTs yet. But I would assume that these could be used in that sense. So it is actually art on your wall, perhaps even like flowing between more than one piece. That'd be so cool.
They can, yeah, and there's some really cool things that you can do with that. If you somebody out there is not in the market or position to spend on a digital frame, there's another thing by Collectors Hub called Gallerist, Gallerist. That's like that but online. Okay. And then you can also just, I mean, if you wanted to, just open that on your television. You see what I mean? And then you've kind of solved the problem. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, me personally, like thinking back to this, like, okay, so definitely keen on getting some art early this year. And I have been, watching some of these drops coming along. They sell out pretty fast. So I'm going to say that the FOMO is baked in, and I'm just kind of moving slowly. And part of why I want to learn more about it today with you is to give myself confidence to take that dive. But the other thing, and I'm already comfortable with, is trading the tokens, the underlying digital assets that are just associated with this, right? So like Rari has a token. It's pretty volatile. It's kind of, down 30% in the last 7 days, might be a dip. I'm looking at, I think Meme had a crazy run. And I actually just picked up this one. I don't know. I posted this in your guys' Telegram the other day as an idea for some possible collaboration, NFY. I don't know if it's on this list yet, but let's just take a quick look at that. It's basically like mixing DeFi, non-fungible yearn. So it's kind of like, if nothing else, the perfect speculative story, right, for a coin. But it's this idea. I'm going to read it to you because I'm actually going to put you on the spot here. And Emma asked as well. So we definitely got to discuss this. She asked, what do you think of this? It's basically the world's first DeFi protocol to utilize NFT tokens to make yield farming more secure and flexible by protecting the price floor and protecting your wallet. So yeah, something to look into. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about, even just in collaboration. I mean, it's, we won't read this whole bloody thing, but have you heard of these guys yet?
I have not. That sounds very interesting. I will say this. I am personally very, very bullish on the intersection of DeFi and NFTs. I think it makes a ton of sense. I think the entire premise of NFTs is owning things for real. And I think DeFi aids in that. And I think they're kind of cousins ideologically. And I think functionally, there's a lot of problems in NFTs that can be solved by DeFi or by other financial products, right? That DeFi is able to bring to the fray. So we talked about liquidity, right? We've got yield farming, or, kind of mining of resources. And that works in a few different ways with NFTs. It's not just yield farming. You can actually like yield farm from games using NFT items. So Axie Infinity, AXIE Infinity, is a really, really interesting use case of this. I believe it's out of Vietnam or Philippines generally, but they've created like this incredibly powerful micro economy that's now larger than some nations, where you actually farm NFTs. So based on in-game activity, you farm NFTs. So there's a lot of different ways that looks that's outside of what you might think of farming in crypto. It's like RuneScape. I don't know if anyone listening ever
Pull up
played
Axie
RuneScape.
Infinity while you talk about it real quick.
Yeah, so RuneScape,
It's intense.
you could generate gold, right? I mean, you go do things in the world and generate gold, but RuneScape gold had a real world market value. You could actually sell RuneScape gold, and this still happens. There's like bot farms. So it's actually like players, you know, of the game going out there and doing certain actions to yield NFTs. So, and then they have their own token too, that's right. Some other tokens that I would suggest looking at for listeners are Sand, which is Sandbox, which is by Animoca Brands, who's like another powerhouse. Oh, that's right. Axie Infinity just partnered with Binance. I forgot.
Yeah,
They're like
available on
doing
Binance.
something official with Binance. Yeah, it's like a formal partnership or something.
Okay, so Axie Infinity, AXS, and you know it's up 200% on a 7-day move. So proceed with caution there for the eager ones. Let's take a look at it.
Probably related to that. There's been a lot of bullish announcements about it lately.
It must. I mean, and we remember with Swipe. So partnering with Binance is a winning play for short-term price action for sure. I mean, certainly at this point, I would imagine it's pretty good for mid and long term as well. But this is AXS is the one we're looking at, right? AXS. Well, just double check before I talk about it. Yep. So it looks like, I mean, what do we got? 15 cents, trading at 59 cents, volume flying in. And that partnership with Binance will do that. If anyone remembers SXP, that's Swipe. We all remember what that one did. And if we don't, I can show you in just a hot second. So that was, you know, insiders buying the announcement, partnering with Binance. And then, you know, so we saw what Binance partnerships can do. I didn't even know that AXS and all that stuff. So maybe it's still quiet.
Yeah, I had actually
crazy.
forgotten about it, but that did happen lately.
I mean, this chart is certainly
actually like a couple weeks, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
This chart makes me nervous as far as like chasing highs goes, but it's not that crazy if you look at sort of what Swipe did over a period of what, July to August. So it's like there's about a 6-week rally, absolute insanity. We're not in the same market for alts right now, but 382, 48 cents. Like, I mean, I might have to be a buyer.
Yeah, I would look at these as far as like, you know, really great long-term plays, because what you're speculating on is that the ecosystem is going to continue to grow. And is going to be something that continues to attract users and be like a self-sustaining economy. And if it does that, I think these kind of tokens perform extremely well over time, right? Like anything that's related to a virtual world or a virtual game, or virtual experience, that underlying world or game or experience continues to grow and evolve, is going to be very, very attractive. I think the assets associated with them are.
Yeah, and again, early is the sort of the word of the month. I mean, we're especially with NFTs, like crypto. Okay, we're what, 10 years in, 12 years in, 11 years in. I think we're still early in all this stuff. Obviously, if it's anything, it's a peanut right now. But I'm always looking at ways to get in safely. I'm not going to break my trading plan just because I'm excited. So I created this pump chaser fib. So maybe a visit to this zone, which is confluent with this bullish throwback, gives a more savvy trader an opportunity to participate in an AXS rally. That if you know, if we're going to take anything from the Swipe move, then that is that this thing could go pretty insane. So we'll keep a close eye on this one on the stream. AXS, what's the market cap right now? 32 million. So still, you know, relatively small for something that could go higher, but you know, always proceeding with caution. And if this breaks, I'll probably just get out and wash for a full RLZ tag, but let's see. Sorry, I'm going to keep taking everything smart you say and turning it into something like, you know, all about profits and gains and trading. Cause you know,
hey, that's what it's for, man.
I mean, grab the value. Yeah.
Look, I mean, you know, and this is where like you're talking about investing in some of these more liquid ERC20 equivalents or attaches to NFT markets. Like, yeah, go. I mean, you know, speculate on those. The NFTs themselves, my point earlier was that it's a little more complicated. And if you don't have experience in understanding the value of art or have an artistic eye, then don't invest in art. I don't know what else to tell you. Like you're buying something associated with an art asset, and if you don't understand the value of art, you should start there, right? Don't even worry about the NFT tech. Go look at how you value art and what are some examples of famous art that's been really, really successful on secondary markets. And then the game items are different too. So also understand that there's different verticals within NFTs, right? So these are considerations for investing in NFTs themselves. If you want to go speculate on some of the tokens, just look at, is this going to be an attractive ecosystem? That's the real question, because you're actually fundamentally betting on the success of the underlying ecosystem, which may be a game, it may be a VR world, right? Any of that. So,
yeah, I mean, there's actually a ton. I mean, we're talking mostly about art today. That's been your central, I think, passion, if I am correct, with NFTs, is the art aspect. But I actually have a thread here from a guy, and it just refreshed, so it's not here anymore. Let's see if I can go back. Nope. All right. It was DCL. What was it? At DCL.
Oh, DCL Blogger, yeah.
Blogger. Yeah, you probably remember. He's pinned it now, I think, so I can find it.
Yep.
But 25 industries that are being disrupted. And so
I remember the thread. Yeah.
You remember this thread. I always think of this thread because it's such a brilliant thread. In fact, I'll post this link to this as well, because anyone, again, you could do a whole hour going through this.
It's really good. Yeah.
This blog, but obviously art is the big one at the top, and he's tagging some people and he's sharing some good stats. Virtual land is I think what you're about to start talking about with sand, which is
sand. Sand and actually also Mana, which is Decentraland's one.
Yeah,
I don't think Crypto Voxels has a token yet, but Crypto Voxels is very interesting. Maybe it does. I actually can't recall, but those are the three big ones: Sandbox, Crypto Voxels, and Decentraland. But I really think that that's a very, very interesting sector to invest in, is digital real estate.
Yeah, it's like we're talking about real estate now. Now, what about an NFT that represented the deed to a house in the real world? Is that an area that, is that what we're talking about here too, where we're going to kind of have digital tokens to represent other non-fungible things in the world?
I think so. There's been some early experimentation with that. There are actually companies out there looking to do that.
That was all. Yeah, I mean, that was the rage in 2017. I remember I invested in what was the ICO for some of these more real estate. I'll have to.
Yeah, I'm still very bullish on real estate overlap with crypto, but it's just proven to be a little bit less. How do I say? It's come to fruition less expediently than people thought. Am I still really bullish on the macro concept? For sure. But I mean, it seems like there has been no clear winner in that game.
Certainly not. Propy. Oh, here it is. What is it trading at? 9 cents. Yeah, that was a $1 ICO. Whoops. Long since exited that one, but it's over on Huobi. But look, I mean, hey, today somebody likes it.
Doing something.
It's moving. So, I mean, and that was, I don't know if they talked about using NFTs, and now maybe they're going to pivot and say, because how do you have a token that represents a house?
Well, this goes back to the liquidity problem with NFTs. If you're going to use an NFT to do this, right, you would need to create the master title as an NFT, and then you'd fractionalize that, right? So maybe those fractional pieces are 721s, maybe they're ERC20s. Maybe they're 1155s. These are the questions that nobody's really answered. Now, on the Blockparty side, we have some experiments that we're going to be kind of working with in that realm. And then there's NFT Protocol, which is doing some interesting things, trying to facilitate and bring liquidity, bring these other more sophisticated financial tools, and just 101 is liquidity, right? Into the NFT world. But that's the problem when you look at bridging gaps like this.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a long, drawn out process. There's going to be failed experiments with each one. We learn something new, right? We see them fall off every bear market. And with each rug pull, the smart contracts get smarter.
That's true.
Hey, let's not forget about ETHverse, by the way, before we move on from digital land. ETHverse is one that is actually looking like it might be putting a bottom in. Just on a side note, I noticed this morning that the ETHverse chart could be waking up down here at about 8 cents, which is just around the pre-sale price. So it makes sense to bottom there where the sellers dry up. Perhaps buyers take over, but we'll see. They're basically doing a Minecraft Ethereum overlay where you have NFTs within the game of Minecraft, which naturally,
Wow.
yeah. So it's pretty exciting in the sense that there's like 125 million daily active users. So if they can capture any amount of that with this NFT kind of overlay, that'd be pretty dope. So
yeah, it really comes down to users. I think is like the most bullish story of NFTs. Like there is the potential to onboard the vast majority of all digital artists in the world, which is a huge group of people, and traditional artists. And the example I always use when I try and relate this to people is like, what happens when LeBron makes NFTs? Right now, there's zero reason that he wouldn't. Zero reason that he wouldn't. I could spend an hour explaining to you why, but just trust me. All of the reasons point that he should, or someone in his position should make NFTs, because it's just free money and a way to monetize their fan base in a really unique way. But that's, what does he have, like 75 million followers on Instagram? He posts like one Instagram post. How many people join crypto? 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, right? I mean,
that's exciting.
Like so you bring on these huge brands, these huge organizations, these huge individuals. They post one time, let alone 10 times, or do a full marketing campaign about NFTs or some kind of collectible that's NFT based, and now you've onboarded millions. You know?
Yeah. It's a quick, I mean, it's certainly a sexy on-ramp for users, as you just put it. Tell us a little bit more. I mean, maybe it's time to zoom in a little to Blockparty NFT protocol, what you're, working on day to day. And for those of you who just tuned in, Franklin here writes on HxroLabs.io. He posts a blog every other week. So if you guys are interested in this topic, be sure to check out HxroLabs.io. That's, I'm going to put that in the chat here, HXRO labs.io.
And the next one's coming soon. I'm putting the finishing touches on it.
Perfect. I was going to say that's got to be due real soon. So, if you want to keep up with this whole topic, this conversation today, check us out at HxroLabs.io. Now,
and a final note on that one, we're going to go into valuations in that blog, which I don't think I really have the time to like do fully here on this call. So yeah, that'll do better justice to it.
Perfect. And now speaking more specifically to Blockparty, you guys. Now, I remember this distinctly because as a trader, I tried to trade this news, and it didn't work out for me in the short term. But thankfully, you guys pivoted to NFT, and the token came back. But all that to say that when you, as Blockparty, announced a partnership with the Sacremento Kings in late 2019, I FOMO'd like a little schoolgirl into that token right then. And a few days later, Bittrex delisted because of regulatory crap. I don't know. I remember it was a bit of a mystery. And I sat on that bag for a year and a half. I was like, oh, it's a write-off. And then, and then it came back and you guys airdropped NFT and that thing blew up to like 40 cents a few weeks ago. So, I'm okay. I survived. But how is that partnership going? You talk about LeBron and NBA. What are the Kings doing with this?
Well, I think the point related to Blockparty here is that Blockparty is able to touch a few different verticals really, really effectively. So we have Vlad's experience being, like an art investment fund manager. So we're able to talk to like really, really significant legacy artists. And I'm going back to the point about what are NFTs now? What are the major verticals that are really significant? One of them is art. We're able to do that. We have pedigree. One of them is music. Audio-visual right now, I didn't talk about this earlier, but audio-visual NFTs are blowing the fuck up. Like everybody wants audio-visual NFTs.
And Melker's working on those right now, isn't he?
Melker did some. They sold out. They broke the website. They sold, so many people came to buy them. It was crazy. Thankfully I got one, but it was it was nuts. And then Justin Blau is a DJ who's actually director of music at Blockparty, and again, global, basically headline level DJ. Huge, kind of hugely significant that he's doing NFTs. You've got RAC doing them, and there are a lot of names. Let me just say that like within the next 2 to 3 months, you're going to see some very famous people release on Blockparty, and we haven't talked about that anywhere else. I can't say who they are yet, but trust me, it's gonna shock people. But to your point, there's also sports as a vertical, and Blockparty, because of the relationship with the Kings, and kind of working on a token for their ecosystem, is able to do that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a major announcement related to that soon as well, but I can't talk about that either, unfortunately. But I think people could look at the context and maybe figure some things out that we're able to do that again with someone else. So there's that piece. But then I think the broader context is we're able to really understand and talk to athletes and organizations, athletic organizations well, in regards to collectibles, in regards to their own ecosystems with their fans, right? So, you know, we've done two of the artists that released with us were pro baseball players, or are pro baseball players who are artists. So I think the broader story for Blockparty here related to that relationship is that we're just able to touch all of the significant verticals in NFTs with like legitimate credibility. You know, we can actually do sports NFTs and collectibles. We can actually do music and audiovisual. We can actually do art and say, look, we have expertise in these realms, right? So I think the story for Blockparty is like, we have the pedigree, you know?
And you're a marketplace.
Yeah, we are. And it's a place where you go to collect and become a collector of NFTs. And obviously being recently launched, you know, the Blockparty was doing ticketing and events before. Obviously with COVID, that stuff's been crippled. But there was a desire to pivot into this aspect of NFTs too. Thinking about it, blockchain tickets are really NFTs. So we were doing NFTs before most people. And this movement into art and collectibles and things was a trend that we saw, and we thankfully nailed it with the timing, right? Like, couldn't have been better timing. If you think about it, you were talking about that crazy like DeFi, post-DeFi bubble, mini bubble in NFTs. Like, we launched right during that. You know?
I remember distinctly. Yeah, actually, you know what? For anyone watching that is not sure what we're talking about, I'll just pull that up real quick. The NFT chart, you know, when you airdropped it, it came out rather hot, as they do, and fell off to, you know, the 3 and 4 cent range. And it was just around the start of September. Actually, it was as most of the DeFi bubble was popping. Sort of the top was coming in on a lot of these coins. Do I have?
That's
wait,
right.
I don't have the right share up. I mixed my shares here. One sec, guys.
Well, you can see some nice work that's sold. So there you go.
No, it's not the end of the world. But let me put this over here. I'm gonna have to rearrange my tab, bro. One sec. Okay. Now I don't know if that cancels my share. Yeah, it does. Okay, so watch this. Snapchat magic. Here we go. Boom. All right. So this is the chart for NFTs, and you can't talk about price because you work with them. But I'm going to talk about the chart because I traded this. Obviously, like I said, I have an old bag, and when that came out, I had to skim some here. I was like, "What the hell?" I woke up, took some off, and still actually hold a pretty significant bag. In fact, I staked my entire bag the other day. You guys,
I staked some tokens as well. I would also clarify, I work for Blockparty, right? So Blockparty is my employer. NFT protocol is like created as a decentralized protocol to serve the entire NFT market. The only association is that they are like, Blockparty is the use case, and kind of the development for NFT protocol is, you know, partially supported by Blockparty, but the intention is to go crowdsource that. Right, the intention is to go get community, well, obviously through governance, right? Get community input on the actual direction of the protocol. But then in terms of building it, you know, go out and continue to source development from the community and other projects. So we've actually announced a couple partnerships in that realm. Dapper Labs Flow blockchain, which is hugely significant, right? Kira protocol, there's others that are coming as well. So like, the idea is create, like, to go out there and talk to people who are building really good shit and say, hey, come help us build the best NFT shit, right? And in that way, it's detached from Blockparty, right? It just happens to be Blockparty is a use case for NFT protocol. So I just want to make that clear for people. Obviously, I don't want to talk about price anyway, but
no, you're not here to do anything stupid like that. You're here to teach and help me.
Just making that clear, you know?
Yeah, no, it's my job to play dumb and learn about this stuff, which is actually, you know, what I'm keen to do here today, but also to then talk about charts, because that's all I'm just a chart meathead. You know? I just look at charts, I see lines, I see levels, I think of trade ideas. But for what it's worth, you know, NFT token, I picked some up to add to my stake bag the other day, and that's just is what it is. It's not a buy recommendation, but I do generally like things when they're at this part of their chart if I think they are part of something that is going to grow as a space. But it's news to me, and that's really good to clarify that Blockparty is the company, and that NFT protocol is more of like a decentralized protocol open source kind of thing, and you guys are building sort of like a DEX, if I'm not mistaken, that could act as perhaps even like as an index.
Yeah, on the NFT protocol side, there's, what has been released thus far is governance, and then just recently staking, which is like a limited staking pool, and then there'll be others, and kind of expansions of that side of things. But the kind of big hit items that NFT protocol will be working on are like a pricing index for NFTs, and we kind of touched on it earlier, but just how many factors go into it and how difficult it can be, right? And there's no great places to really pull in pricing for the entire market. There's some which will be actually working with them, right? But it would be kind of like pricing index, Oracle. And then the main thing is a decentralized exchange for NFTs, which we're collaborating with some of our partners on. But to our knowledge, nobody really has well, not to our knowledge, like objective fact, nobody really has a good one of those.
Okay. So you're working on building the first.
It would be the first that works. So yeah, it would be the first that really like properly works, and it's really progressing nicely from some of the discussion that I've heard related to that. And then other things would be some of the problems that we talked about before. So related to a DEX, when you have a marketplace, what are some of the problems you have to solve? Well, number one, liquidity, right? And the other things would be like fractionalization of NFTs, so kind of sharding them, breaking them into different pieces, and all the things that you can do with that.
Potentially owning part of a larger piece,
like your Mona Lisa example, right?
Yeah.
Can I trade 1,000th of the Mona Lisa, or can I trade 1,000,000th of the Mona Lisa? Well, that would be really interesting, because everyone wants to speculate on the value of famous art. Like whether you know it or not, it's like baked into your brain. It's like a very deeply human thing to want to understand art and speculate on it.
Well, it's ageless, that's for sure. It's timeless.
I mean, it's as old as human beings, and you might say older than human beings in the sense of natural beauty, right? Being art to me. So yeah, it's really, really deeply like human, and I think that the means to speculate on it are probably the most attractive value proposition of NFTs, if we're being honest here, right? Like being able to trade or speculate on a fraction of a famous piece of art is, in my opinion, the most exciting thing outside of the democratization of art digitally, right? Which we talked about already. So those are the two things I'm most excited about.
Beautiful. Well, for anyone who's interested in reading a little bit more about your roadmap, I've pulled it up here. It's just at nft.org. So if anyone wanted to look at the roadmap and kind of learn more about everything we just talked about, you can check that out. I will flip back. I should let people know who are watching on the more crypto side of this, that I did just get an alert for ETH BTC. So it is making lows on the day. It is entered right into this key level. So sorry to distract here from the interview, but just want to make sure we're staying up to date with our price alerts. I just got mine, so I've got to get real serious now deciding about whether I want to take this trade or not. I told myself I would before it came down here. And the reason I do that is because sometimes once it gets down to your buy zone, you change your flavor. You're like, oh, it's going down. I don't want it. So I've committed to getting into hunting a setup down here just because it's such a big level. But we'll see. There is some bullish divergence here and all that. So shout out to ETH BTC. It is in the zone.
Thanks, Vitalik.
Yeah, thanks for that. Now look, I mean, Bitcoin just got stopped on a dime here at this trend channel resistance, or sorry, trend line resistance. So just a quick update, because like 10,000 alarms just blew up in my head because every TradingView tab likes to give me the same alert. And let's flip back to screens here as we are getting just past the top of the hour. I mean, I could chat NFTs and chat with you all day. As a takeaway for today's discussion on NFTs, where would you say we should go to learn more about this stuff? Like, was there sort of, is there a resource that you have in mind? I mean, I've got this Twitter thread that I think is a great starting point. Any other takeaways you want to make sure somebody watching today has with regards to NFTs, non-fungible tokens, art, and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think as far as the resource, I always have trouble answering that because the answer is kind of no. There isn't really like one dedicated place to get information. I would say like check back into my blog periodically. I'll do my best to help you out. But really, as with all things in crypto, the best place is Twitter. You know, that's where you're going to want to go to find the information. You know, obviously Hxro, through my blog, is going to be putting out more information. Probably in general, we'll be putting out more information as the NFT market tries to, you know, to really grow and capture mainstream audiences. Masari has been doing a great job of capturing market information.
The data level I think is interesting, right? I mean, everyone can talk about opinion.
They're doing a nice job. Yeah, and then nonfungible.com is also the best like other data source, and I believe Masari actually pulls from their data. So if you want to go all the way to the root, that is where it is. It's nonfungible.com. But Mason Nystrom from Masari is doing a great job. You know, the DCL blogger guy, another kind of influential voice in NFTs, puts out a lot of great content. But my best advice to you would be go buy some fucking NFTs, dude. I don't know what else to tell you.
I'm going to, man. But more than that, I want to ask if somebody, because so here I'm thinking about pivoting to like a new image on Twitter, like a new picture, and I would like an original piece of art. And I think it'd be cool to own the NFT that underlies that piece of art.
Yeah.
So what I really want to ask you is, which artist should I ask that is not so famous that I have to pay them $5,000, but is like dope enough that I would want it? So is there like a happy medium?
I got a bunch of people, you know.
Why don't you fire off a couple like artists that you think might actually be interested in doing, what do you call that? Conscription? Commissioning. Yeah, I want to commission someone, and we'll talk about it here live. And then maybe, you know, maybe in a few weeks, I'll actually be able to like, hey, look at that. We, you know, I'd like to own that is, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, some of the ones that I really have become good friends with and collect, you know, Hipworth, Carlos Marcial, Loopify, right? All these kind of folks
I'm gonna get the spelling for those from you after.
Yeah,
I'm serious. I'm writing these down.
Dude, I commissioned a piece from Hipworth that's crazy. I mean, it's mind-blowing. Like, I had like a kind of a dream about it, and I woke up and I was like, who could pull this off? And I liked his art. I had already bought his first ever NFT, but he's been doing art for quite a while. And I messaged him. I was like, hey, do you think you could like pull this off? And he's like, yeah. And it was like exactly what I was looking for. It's crazy. So really cool. And it had figures in it. It had some other kind of abstract stuff. So, you know, he would be a good call probably for that. But there's a lot of other options. It really just depends on what you want. But I mean, going out there, getting a commission piece done is a great way to get involved. And I really mean it. I don't think you have to go spend like $1,000 or even $500, but go try and buy some NFTs and get a sense of it, and message some artists and follow some artists, and you know, follow the markets. Right? So follow Blockparty, follow SuperRare. You know, get that flavor of what's going on in the industry, because you're going to see the best stuff come through those places. And not necessarily all of the best stuff, but a lot of the best stuff will come through some of those more centralized markets.
Excellent. Well, that's beautiful. Now, I am remiss to say that offhand, and this is terrible on my part, you might notice on my Twitter, the main banner is this cool picture. There was a Twitter account that was putting these out, basically wallpapers. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I stole it. I just was like, they're just giving out all these really trippy, like chart galaxy wallpaper things. I wish I knew the name. I should really be giving them a proper shout out, but now it's been a year since it's been on my Twitter and I just can't remember the bloody account. But if anyone knows who it is, these are really dope. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, I think it'd just be cool.
This is the kind of stuff that like Hipworth makes.
Okay. So I'm going to check in with you after, because I want to talk to Hipworth, and I think that'd be cool to actually get an NFT, maybe even commission. Then you're like, not only do I own it, but I helped create it, or, you know, gave an idea. So that's sort of.
He's going to drown Blockparty tomorrow, so maybe you want to get on there and do a little shopping for one of his pieces. And the way I was able.
How does that work? Sorry to interrupt. I have to connect a wallet, like it's like a. Is it just ERC20?
Yeah, you don't on Blockparty. So one of the nice things about Blockparty is we're trying to be the place where any consumer can come get on board with NFTs. So we accept credit card. I mean, you can pay with a credit card. Oh. You don't even have to go MetaMask. We have just finished MetaMask integration. We're still ironing out some kinks with it, so it should be fine by tomorrow. But then also we have like a payment processor for ETH as well. So you can just pay through that. So it's a variety of ways that you can checkout, and
It's
then it gets delivered to your Blockparty account.
Yeah, let's look at this one real quick, just because this is really trippy. I mean, the thing with
Yeah.
digital art is it gives you an opportunity, and not to be a show, like this is literally just my take on. I find it interesting. This is motion. It's visual. You could even have music.
Yeah, and a lot of them do. A lot of them do.
Underlying that, and so that's a piece of art. It's different. And I actually have an old Kodak like digital art picture frame that I never set up. It's literally under my bed right now, like collecting dust from like 10 years ago. And all I can think about is like, okay, now I want to buy something that I can then actually plug into that. I mean, this is trippy. Like to have something like that. Really cool.
I mean,
this opens up a world of art.
No, yeah, it does. This is Tom Eric Smith, who was part of our last drop. The other piece that he released with us sold basically immediately. And I'm just waiting for who's going to split this one up. If it's not, it's going to be maybe me, because I really like.
So this is for sale right now. There's no auction. It's just like go buy if you want.
Buy it now for $2,000, and his pieces tend to sell for more than that. So it's already at a straight sale price, an attractive offer. And he's one of those artists that's on a really great trajectory. I mean, he's been featured on the news overseas, and you know, he's a pretty interesting guy. At the end of the day, we go pick the things that we want to be you know, available for sale, right? And
curated a little, like you kind of
we curate it. We're a highly curated market, and you know, because at the end of the day, we want to be the place where people are onboarded to NFTs. You know, on the open protocol side, that's what NFT protocol does. On the primary market side, that's going to be Blockparty. You see what I mean? So we're going to go make really judicious picks about great art. And we're gonna sample some crypto artists. We're gonna sample some people who never did crypto art, right? We're gonna sample some celebrities. We're gonna sample some smaller folks, right? So you can see in the sold tab a lot of the stuff that's sold.
Yeah. So when you say we have a new drop, that's new things that arrive here up top.
Correct. They're new releases,
yeah,
and they tend to release at 3 Eastern on the day of the drop. And as you pointed out, these drops tend to sell out really quick. This is the only drop we've ever done that did not sell out within a day. A lot of them sell out within an hour, or sometimes within minutes. So, you know, if you see something you like, don't hesitate is my only, that's the mistake I've made when I was early on in NFTs, is I hesitated. I didn't realize like these things become really hot. And if I wanted a piece, I had to like really, really go fast, you know?
Oh, this one looks trippy. That looks
That's
so
the
cool.
other one.
Yeah, I know. I clicked it, but it takes me. I didn't buy it, so it takes me to his other one. But
yeah,
that looks.
Yeah, that's we're gonna be fixing on this site.
Well,
I mean, again, this site is a couple months old, and so we're still some things being ironed out. But
maybe I need to call Tom, see if he'll hook me up, commission me something here. I don't know. That looks a little expensive though. He might be a little bit out of my wheelhouse for my first.
Yeah, he's gonna be. I mean, he and Hepworth will probably be in that same price range, to be honest. Of, you know, somewhere north of 1,000 for a commission. So, but I mean, you know, it's really the scope of what you want. If you don't want something that's really motion, kind of multiple like, it's just what you want at the end of the day, and keeping the scope limited can help. So.
Yeah, and Felipe says that street artists might be perfect for something like this.
Oh, I'm a big fan of street. I actually, one of the guys who I collected his first ever piece was Sauce K, who's like a young street artist, like 17-year-old kid. But dude, it's fucking good, man. It was really, really good. Like some advanced. I mean, I'm a huge street artist. I've lived in cities for most of, you know, my recent life, like the last decade, pretty much the entire last decade I've lived in a city. And so I love graffiti. I'm a huge fan of graffiti as art. Yeah. Love street art, and this guy's good. And you're right. I mean, Felipe is right. That's going to be big.
Yeah, and actually, they just put up a nice big mural right next to where I live as well, and it's just gorgeous. I watched her do it. I wanted to get like a time lapse. I was like, I wish I saw her when she started.
Oh, that would be cool.
You know, time lapses of those kinds of things are really trippy. But okay, so I think we'll wrap there today. I mean, you are onboarded with Hxro Labs. You are a regular blog contributor, so you're not going too far. I think we can have you back on, dial you in for a quick update on any of this kind of stuff. And of course, if you guys want to follow Crypto Fitch on Twitter at Crypto Fitch, and keep an eye on his Twitter as well. And we'll be following along, I mean, fairly closely. Even Nick and I, just as traders and speculators, we love all the tokens that have to do with NFTs. Nick has written about them extensively in his newsletters, which you can also find at HeroLabs.io. And now we have you giving us bi-weekly blogs as well. So thank you so much for joining me today and coming on to kind of dive into the stuff in a little more depth. Definitely clarified for me, and I think given me the courage to go out and sort of actually buy one of these things, because it's like you said, it's early and there's growth, and where money can be made, money tends to flock. And so I'm pretty confident that if I'm going to be a crypto guy, I certainly want to own at least 1 or 2 NFTs early on.
Yeah, just buy one that you really like, and then try and get yourself in on like one of the ones by the really hot artists, like a Trevor Jones or a Ferocious or something like that. Like, try and get one that you just love, you just want to have it, and then one that you could maybe flip. And that's a good way to get started. But I just recommend anyone listening, just dive in, just give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. I mean, there's NFTs out there for $10. It's not.
Oh yeah, I've seen like playing cards for like crypto Twitter influencers that are just have their playing cards, and it's cool ideas. Like little rareable creatures and stuff. So it's not
NBA Top Shot for like $1 and $2. You know what I mean? It's not going to require a huge.
And like any collection, it gets addictive. So be careful.
That too. Do be careful of that.
Yeah. I can imagine you just start stockpiling this shit, and then But hey, I mean, I always say if you're going to FOMO early. So we'll see.
That's the way.
But we'll be talking about NFTs quite a bit in the upcoming months, I'm sure, from a chart perspective. And now you've heard a little bit from the man himself, Crypto Fitch. So thank you so much for coming today. And for everyone watching at home, whatever you do this week, keep an eye on the Bitcoin chart as it heads close to its all-time highs, coming up at 20,000. So it's still a couple thousand away, but these kinds of moves tend to accelerate at their apex. So we'll keep a close eye on that on our Twitter at Real Hero Labs. Until next time, always play from a position of strength. Take care.